Hello, friends. It's Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today, December 29th, 2025. Thank you for joining us on this last Monday of the year edition of Weaponized News. We have Simon on the line for a deep dive into geopolitics. What the heck is going on in China? A lot of saber rattling going on. Let's get to the intros here. What do we got? Russia's claiming Ukraine attempted to assassinate Putin with a very large drone attack on the heels of Zelensky meeting with Putin yesterday meeting with Trump, to try to sort out some kind of peace deal. We're still waiting for that. No peace by Christmas. What else do we got? Oh, of course, the big news of the day, Shadow President of America, Bibi, came, as in our thumbnail, shaking all the hands of the War Department, the Secretary of State, Little Marco, and of course, Trump. And so it's wonderful news that the Shadow President has decided to grace us with his appearance here, flying. And I saw a report they should have actually arrested him when he was over international airspace to enforce his international arrest warrant for genocide. That didn't happen. What else do we got? The roller coaster of silver market. It's looking like crazy, crypto with the volatility in the silver market. We'll cover that. Trump's complete and utter failure on mass deportations, and still yet MAGA will excuse it all away. And so you're going to get what you were lied to about from Trump, his administration. No mass deportations. He should be impeached on those grounds. Very unpopular opinion. He's a liar, con man. That is your President Trump. Good job, MAGA. Keep making excuses. And what else? That's about it, and a whole bunch more. But in the interest of time, to bring on Simon, and don't miss the second half. The second hour is going to be, as I said before, we're going to compare Simon's going to do a big comparison for us between the U.S. national security strategy, the public one that we know of, and China's response to it is very significant. No one in Western media is even covering this, and it is significant as a giant exercise, military exercise being conducted by China there in the South China Sea in response to this big arms deal, a bunch of arms sent by U.S. to Taiwan. It's got China all pissed off. They're all pissed off about a lot of stuff. And so we're going to go over all that, compare and contrast national security strategy, China, U.S., second half of the show. And with that, let's blast through on this day in history and bring on Simon, get to all this news for you. On this day of December 29th, going back to the year 1813, the British burned Buffalo, New York during the War of 1812. On this day, in 1835, on this day, the Trail of Tears Treaty of New Ekata is signed between the U.S. government and representatives of a minority Cherokee political faction, ceding all Cherokee lands east of the Mississippi to the United States of America. And so a great land theft there by the federal government. We do appreciate their efforts in that regard. In 1837, we saw the first steam-powered threshing machine patented in Maine, part of the Industrial Revolution. In 1845, on this day, Texas is admitted as the 28th state to the Union. On this day, 1845. In 1848, real gas lighting here now. Gas lights first installed at the White House under the Polk administration. Literal gas lighting at the White House. 1848. In 1851, on this day, We saw the first American Young Men's Christian Association, YMCA chapter, open in Boston, Massachusetts. In 1851, what am I missing on my 18? That was 1851. In 1862, on this day, we saw the Battle of, or excuse me, we saw the modern bowling ball is invented, made out of wood, 1862. 1890, on this day, Edison patents his invention, means for transmitting signals electronically using induction rather than radio waves. In 1911, on this day, Sun Yat-sen is elected as the first president of the Republic of China, part of the Chinese Revolution. In 1949, on this day, we saw the first UHF television station operating on a regular basis, broadcasting out of Bridgeport, Connecticut. 1949 UHF television. 1987, on this day, the US FDA first approves the use of Prozac to treat depression. And in 2016, on this day, then President Barry Soetoro, the first half-white president, Barack Hussein Obama retaliates against Russia for hacking American computer systems and trying to influence the 2016 election by ejecting 35 Russian spies and imposing sanctions on Russia. Thank you, Barack Hussein Obama, for keeping us safe from Russia. And with that, we're going to segue with the Pixies and bring on Simon and get to all of this news for you. Simon, how are you doing this Monday?
Sam, I'm doing very, very well. I'm on my second pint of real Dutch Heineken, which I'm enjoying greatly. I hope our audience will enjoy the show just as much as I'm enjoying that. And I should ask people to stick around for the second hour or come back and see it as a standalone special because, as per usual, as the Prince of the Obscure, as Simon Jones likes to call me, we do indeed have some hidden nugget for the delight of our audience that really ties up a lot of the foreign policy conflict between the United States and China in South and Central America and the Caribbean. It is actually a really, really big deal. So we're going to go through that in excruciating detail with a drinking game as well, of course. So if people want to get a bottle of spirits in the freezer or 2 cases of beer in this case, because there's a lot of occurrences of the keyword we're going to be focusing on tonight. But no, I have to say that I'm very, very happy to be with you. And whilst I'll be with you in January as well, it's a fitting end to 2025, though I appreciate you will be doing a year-end wrap-up tomorrow as well for your ever-suffering audience.
Thank you, Simon. Okay, so what do we miss? Well, Trump has said they did land strikes on Venezuela. I haven't seen any other reporting or proof of it. Usually the Department of War brags about it and posts a video, or CENTCOM or somebody, Southcom, I guess it would be, posts a video. But we just have Trump bragging that he yesterday or 2 days ago in a radio interview that indeed they did a land strike on Venezuela. Did you see that report, Simon?
Yeah, but it's astonishing given the amount of media attention on this issue that there appears to be no other confirmation in any way whatsoever. So who knows which particular wedding party they decided to blow up on this occasion, but no doubt there'll be an aggrieved groom coming public at some time in a forum near you.
So also over Christmas, Trump announced, and all the military announced, so I believe they did do it. They announced a major bombing campaign in Nigeria to defend Christians. So bombing for Christians on Christmas in Nigeria, allegedly avenging uh, ISIS killing of Christians in Nigeria. Simon, what do you make
Yeah,
of that?
I think it's more to do with Boko Haram rather than ISIS in this particular occasion, because obviously ISIS we're normally supporting, so we don't normally blow up our own people. But yeah, it was interesting that supposedly the strikes were scheduled for Christmas Eve, but Trump delayed it for one day in order to make it a specific Christmas present for the Christians of Nigeria. Not sure that's quite in keeping with the intentions of the season, but obviously Trump likes to reinvent everything, and they're lucky that they just haven't called it, the Trump festive season as opposed to Christmas at this point.
There may be lobbying efforts next year for MAGA. Um, okay, so yesterday, Trump, the good Christian, which he's not, on a Sunday, met up with old Zelensky to negotiate peace between Russia and Ukraine. I've lost track how many times they met to figure this out. What do we make of this? Here's a direct quote from the meeting from the White House. Trump said, "Our meeting was excellent. We have made a lot of progress on ending that war by far closer than ever before." And then he also said, "It'll either end or it'll go on for a long time." What do we make of all this? And on the heels of this, reports out of Russia that Ukraine, NATO, US, you could just call them all one block, attempted to assassinate Putin with a giant drone attack on his house.
Yeah, so there's two things there. So initially, we had this 28-point peace plan that was written on a napkin by Jared Kushner. Obviously, the whole world was waiting with bated breath to see the outcome of that. Then that got wound back after intervention by the European leaders to a 20-point plan. Zelensky claims that they've got agreement on 90% of the 20-point plan. The only problem of which is that the 10% is actually extremely contentious, and that's the utilization of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, which is one of the largest in Europe, and also whether or not there will be any surrender of the Donbass plus Crimea plus the other two oblasts that the Russians currently occupy. So, it's all agreed apart from the important stuff, which is always good to know. And in this case, Zelensky met with a lot of European leaders. He arrived in America via Canada, that he managed to squeeze for an extra 2.5 billion US dollars. After the meeting with Zelensky, Trump apparently had a 2.5 hour phone call with Putin, and during
Cut out for a second.
that had Putin made strong comments about the attack, which had occurred on one of his private residences, the details of which were explained by Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, in an interview with TASS news agency today, where they explained that there were no less than 91 drones that apparently some kind of assassin attempt on Putin just hours after Zelensky. Now, in addition, in response rather to that, Lavrov has explained that Russia has determined what its response is going to be and the timing of this. So both the means and Federation, but also they will be changing their specifically in response to this attack on Putin's residence. So the Ukrainians have since said that the whole thing is either fake or a false flag. But Lavrov normally lie. He has a really, really strong reputation for being very forthright with, and so the fact that they were as specific that there were 91 drones and they explained how they counted them as they took them out, it does seem likely that this was a deliberate strike trying to take out Putin. And there's a lot of speculation that it was being run by MI6, British Secret Service, who have been involved pretty into Russian Federation. It's very, very hard to see how this can do anything other than undermine the peace negotiations.
It's being reported by the AP here now that the U.S. offers Ukraine 15-year security guarantee as part of
I've
the
lost
peace
your
plan.
audio, so you're on mute.
No. Oh, yeah. No, I'm good. It's our connection. We were doing pretty good. Maybe try to log out and log back in.
I'm going to come back to you.
So the United States, we were doing good. Simon's halfway around the world, so this technology, as it does bring us together and allow these broadcasts, does have some problems. Let's see if we can get Simon back on the line here. Are you back there with us? Is the connection good? No? U.S. offers Ukraine 15-year security guarantee as part of peace plan, and Ukraine is wanting a 50-year commitment to security guarantee. Can you hear me now, Simon? Well, we're doing good for a second. Let's play a clip of Trump being asked about said drone attack on Putin today with Bibi, our shadow president.
Right, the alleged strike on Putin's residence could scuttle the peace.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's not good. I heard about it this morning. You know who told me about it? President Putin told me about it. Early in the morning, he said he was attacked. That's no good. It's no good.
We're trying to get Simon back on the line. Here's more from that earlier today from Trump.
Hawks. I stopped the tomahawks. I didn't want that because we're talking about, it's a delicate period of time. This is not the right time. It's one thing to be offensive because they were offensive. It's another thing to attack his house. It's not the right time to do any of that, and can't do it. And I learned about it from President Putin today. I was very angry about it.
You back with us, Simon?
Sam, I have no audio for you.
I can hear you. Man, these are painful. We don't have a good connection. It was good in the beginning. Okay. We're going to have to work through this. Hopefully we can get a connection. Let's take a look at First Lady Melania Trump. What has she done this year? She posted her successes. How's that now? No?
Still can't hear you, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's no good. Here are Melania Trump's successes for 2025. Passed legislation, Take It Down Act, of course, protecting the children that will be used against us. Championed executive order fostering the future of America, children and families. We covered that. Implemented national K through 12 AI program, presidential AI challenge. Hosted task force on AI education. secured $25 million for foster care housing, reunited Ukrainian and Russian children and families, world peace, launched global coalition at UN General Assembly, fostering the future together. And so it all sounds like noble causes, but don't trust the government. They're going to use all this stuff to take more of our freedom. Are you back with us now, Simon?
No, Sam. Unfortunately, I'm not hearing your audio at all. I would gather that you can hear me if you can nod your head. Yes. Great. I'm pleased you can hear me, but I am not getting your audio at all.
Yeah, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. For the banter back and forth there. Now, I don't know what the hell. Okay, continuing. We got to continue. Trump says the U.S. struck a big facility in campaign against Venezuela. It's reported by the New York Times. Okay, one more try. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Are you hearing me? Yes, it would appear that you're hearing me fine. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to do this in a manner such that I'm relying upon sign language from you because I have no audio from you whatsoever. So we'll obviously eventually come up to our 30-minute point and you have the appropriate song to play. We'll struggle through and then we may have to just have a monologue from me from the second part of the show. I'll try and cut back in and out. It's very, very strange. Normally the problem is reverse, where I can hear you, but you can't hear me. But on this occasion, the powers that like to intervene occasionally when we're going to break big stories on the show do appear to be interrupting us in reverse. And so you can hear me, but not the other way around.
Promises made, promises kept by the Trump administration. They are not doing the mass deportations in less than, well, they say Department of Homeland Security today says in less than a year, more than 2.5 million illegal aliens have left the United States. But the mass deportation numbers are looking like 370,000, maybe at best. And the rest they claim are self-deporting. And so, well, here's the post from Department of Homeland Security. Let's take a look. They say over 2.5 million illegals have left the United States in under a year. 600,000 plus illegals have been deported, and another 1.9 have been deported, self-deported, and that's where they're getting this 2.5 million, and it's looking like that's under-reporting. As of December 14th, 2025, reported as per The Guardian, 327,000 illegals actually deported. And so we're not seeing a mass deportation campaign as was promised by Trump. How's it now, Simon? Can you hear me yet?
Finally, it would appear that I can hear you again. Thank you so much.
I was just talking about the deportations, and we're not getting the mass deportations that were promised. And really the only reason I could see to even vote for Trump, if he did, would be that promise, which is he's not kept.
Well, the problem seems to be was they ramped up expectations from 10 million to 15 million to 30 million during the course of the administration. They made a late start on it, apparently with little to zero preparation. They needed to have massive logistical plans in order to do anything like the thousands of people per day that they were promising. And they now seem to have reduced themselves to arresting people outside of legitimate daycare centres as opposed to Somali daycare centres. And obviously, that's not particularly popular and is contrary to what they've promised. So, yeah, it's no surprise to some of the Weaponized News viewers, because I am well known for my attention to logistics, that it's not going according to the great promises that were made.
They deported 327,000 is all, and the rest are self-deported. So yeah, massive failure there.
Having tripled the bonus rate from 1,000 to 3,000 to self-deport.
Yes. Here's the meme of the day from Department of Homeland Security. Defend your home. As they're trying to recruit a bunch of judges now, as the government side of immigration is also broken. Not only the fact there's all these illegal aliens in the country to become legal and actually follow immigration law. On the government side, if you want to do it right, rule of law and all that jazz is also broken badly.
Well,
And so
what we need to appreciate is that during the Biden administration, when there was clearly an open border policy following Biden's clear-cut invitation for the masses to invade the United States, don't forget these people were being given what they were called notices to appear. And at the Biden administration end, those were being dated in 2029 and 2030. So there is already a 6-year backlog of people with scheduled court appearances.
DOJ, Department of Homeland Security, are trying to recruit lawyers to become judges and lawyers in the whole immigration process. Apparently, they don't have enough manpower to administrate legal immigration into this country at this point. Like you just said, notice to appear 5, 6, 7, 10 years out in some cases, and they're allowed to reside here in America, waiting to go to immigration court, essentially. And so the whole system, from one side to the other, is complete failure. Heritage Foundation report blasts Trump's record on deportations. And so they're big hardliners, as we are here, on getting this whole immigration system fixed and getting the legals out and the legals in and everything in between, legal residency, who's on the right visa, and all this type of stuff. And so Heritage Foundation is blasting Trump administration for failing to fulfill the promise made for mass deportations. Here's Mayor Karen Bass out of Los Angeles says that, well, let's play the clip here about Hispanics joining the Border Patrol.
Well, in a way, I think it's sad. I think that those Border Patrol agents are going to have a difficult time when they're out in the field and they see what actually happens in real life, separate from their training. But I do understand that their primary incentive is financial. I think it just speaks to the financial situation that millions of Americans find themselves in. And I definitely am concerned about that report.
So maybe there's this was in regards to Hispanics joining the Border Patrol. Maybe that's a backhanded economic stimulus from the Trump administration, as you can join Border Patrol in this horrible economy to make ends meet.
Well, pay is relatively low, and Spanish skills are very, very necessary. They endured a horrific period during the Biden administration when they were essentially under orders to just catch and release. But now, much like the military recruitment, one would imagine that there's quite a large body of Americans who are keen to help facilitate the mass deportations that the administration is suggesting. Unfortunately, the recruitment standards seem to have greatly fallen and the training periods seem to have been truncated. So we're seeing some very, very heavy-handed tactics from masked agents of both ICE and the Border Patrol, along with all the secondees from many other government agencies where they're trying to fill every vacancy possible in order to meet their targets. But it's essentially become a bounty system, like, that, what was it, kind of Dog the Bounty Hunter or something like that, where supposedly they're being paid a bonus for every person that they manage to arrest. We've seen a similar system operate in Malaysia, where they were playing bounties on all the illegals handed into police stations. But in many jurisdictions, with Democrat governors and mayors, they're still completely failing to cooperate with federal law enforcement when it comes to actually handing over known criminals with detainer orders that have been posted against them. It's a really difficult situation, but it does appear necessary. All of the doom and gloom forecasts about a collapse in American gross domestic product show no sign whatsoever of occurring at this point, specifically related to immigration. And we've not seen any massive reduction in property rental prices or anything of that nature yet. That's to say that there's a lot more work still to be done. But I think a lot of Americans at this particular point are not only focused on, one, the Epstein files not being released in an unredacted manner, and now we learned that there was 1 million more documents to be processed over the next decade or so, but also the fact that we've got a lot of warmongering going on in relation to Venezuela, which is clearly in contrast to Trump's promises to be a peace president. A lot of the agreements that he claims to have brokered have indeed broken down in the subsequent time frame. And it was interesting that on the video segment of his meetings with Netanyahu, there is actually a hot mic segment where he's heard vigorously complaining to Netanyahu that Trump didn't receive the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize, though of course the nomination period actually ended very early on in his administration. And it's interesting that Netanyahu announced is to him, in order to salve his battered ego, that Trump will be the recipient next year as the first non-Jewish, non-Israeli recipient of the annual Israel Prize. So another little bit towards his Nobel Peace Prize, in addition to the International Football Federation World Peace Prize that they created specifically to butter his ego in the run-up to the 2026 World Cup in the United States.
This year, in Trump's second administration, Trump has bombed Iran, Syria, Somalia, Yemen, Iraq, Nigeria, the Caribbean boat strikes in the Caribbean Sea on the eastern side and the western side, in the Pacific side of South America. And now he's bombed Venezuela, according to his own claims here now. So I guess that deserves the peace prize, according to Aardvark land. That would qualify. We haven't quite gotten up to genocide level, but the Pentagon is working on it here now.
So Sam, at this point, if you don't mind, we might want to consider letting people know what our T-shirt of the week is, and then we might also want to go to our 30-minute break song. And I appreciate we did have some technical disruptions, but let me do the intro for that before you go. But if you could tell people about the fundraising and the T-shirts, as we need to try and raise some funds for year-end, just for your Twitter subscription and for the horrible restream services that unfortunately we're forced to pay for, in addition for suffering all the technical problems.
Thank you, Simon, for that. Yeah, let's take our commercial break right now. A live commercial break. Everybody go to weaponizednews.com. Get yourself some stickers over there. We got the holograph sticker, the white background sticker and the clear sticker there. That's the best way to support us. Get yourself a sticker. We take donations. Thank you for all the subscriptions and the donations we've gotten. In the link below right here, you can go right to the store. Let's see, this one. I think we like this one. No, I don't know.
It was it was the kind of massive circle of angels, which is one of Gustave Doré's most famous engravings.
Yeah, let me try to find that one quickly.
And that's from the very famous book, the Divine Comedies. And several of our T-shirt images that we're doing as promotions for our year-end fundraiser. These T-shirts are available at weaponizednews.com, and they're approximately $30. They are high-quality T-shirts, and these are images that have been very, very carefully selected by me. They'll be very, very good, rather intellectual talking points, and this is one of the 9 images that we've chosen. Yeah, it's not that one. That's the one, the Hall of Serpents. The one we want is the one that has the 1,000 angels in a spiral, Sam. If you can find that amongst the selection, and it's where Dante is with his companion and looking up towards the heavens, and there's a particularly impressive image of about 1,000 angels. And what's interesting about these carvings, and they are actually wood block carvings, Gustave Doré, when you look at them, you'd think that they would take weeks to produce. He was doing essentially one a day. He was in very, very high demand at this point, and he did some incredible engravings. He did Faust, and he also did Milton's Paradise Lost. There are some, and also another one, the Gargantuan. Did some really, really big publications in the 1860s and 70s, but he died relatively young, so it was a great loss to illustrated books in the medieval period. If you can just zoom in on that so people can see just how incredibly impressive that image is. It really is absolutely extraordinary. That's thousands and thousands of angels in a kind of layered circle. So these are very, very interesting T-shirts indeed. They have the Weaponized News logo on the back, and it would be great if our audience could consider purchasing one of these, circa $30, of which we make a small profit in order to support your broadcast. And then the song that we've got, albeit we're running a little bit late for the 30-minute break, is by the artist Sia. The title is Unstoppable. This is a bit of a shout out to one of our longtime supporters who's been following me ever since I was a frequent contributor to InfoWars, that I haven't been on for the whole of 2025. But this is Candice Morris of Tennessee. Our regular listening audience will remember how we did a fundraising campaign for her about 12 months ago to help her get back on the road. She does actually live in a very, very isolated community with no public transport, and her vehicle was struggling greatly at this time. But there's one particular lyric in this song that the audience will appreciate in relation to that fundraising campaign, where it says, "My Porsche has no brakes."
And with that, here's our song. Again, thank you to all the subscribers, the people who have donated, people who are patrons to the Weaponized News store. Go to the first link in the description below, our Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, and Bitcoin wallet address, all in the description below this video. Thank you for supporting independent reporting and analysis here at Weaponized News. Here's the song. We'll be back for the second half of the show. And don't forget, the last hour, we're going to do a deep dive into U.S. and Chinese national security strategy and policy. Here is the song aforementioned by Simon.
I'll smile, I know what it takes to fool this town. I'll do it till the sun goes down and all through the night time. Oh yeah, I'll tell you what you wanna hear. Keep my sunglasses on while I shed a tear. It's never the right time. Yeah. I put my armor on so you are how strong I am. I put my armor on, I show you that I am. I'm unstoppable. I'm a Porsche with no brakes. I'm invincible. Yeah, I win every single game. I'm so powerful. I don't need batteries to play. I'm so confident. Yeah, I'm unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Yeah, I'm unstoppable today. Break down, only alone I will cry out now. You'll never see what's hiding out, hiding out deep down. Yeah. I know, I've heard that to let your feelings show is the only way to make friendships grow, but I'm too afraid now. Yeah. I put my armor on so you are how strong I am. I put my armor on, I show you that I am. I'm unstoppable. I'm a Porsche with no brakes. I'm invincible. Yeah, I win every single game. I'm so powerful. I don't need batteries to play. I'm so confident. Yeah, I'm unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable.
Sam, are you on mute at the moment?
Yeah, I was.
There we go.
We're back. Okay. It seems like we got all our technical difficulties sorted out here. Shout out to Denver on the Rumble. And yeah, Denver pointed out when we did, what was the last show on Friday about the Maha year in review, that indeed on the first couple weeks of Trump administration for everybody, I'm glad Denver remembered that they did roll out the old Operation Stargate and the miracle cure for cancer, they told us, right? If everybody can remember, with all the nonsense, it's hard to keep track. But thank you, Denver, for pointing that out as part of the Maha first year here now achievements, which have amounted to literally nothing. I guess we don't have food dyes anymore, as that's being fought over in the courts now. So here in America, Simon, we're literally fighting over, should we have petroleum-based food dyes in our food supply, and it's being challenged in court as our right to poison ourselves with these said dyes. It was very low on the priority level of toxicity that we find ourselves in, but that's where we're at here now. So every single little thing is a fight, it seems like.
Yeah, I see that Kennedy today also announced a new task force on Lyme disease.
That's about 2 weeks ago they announced that. Yeah.
Yeah, but no admission as yet as to the fact that it actually leaked from a U.S. government laboratory in the first place.
Plum Island Lab 257. Everybody should look that up, and it's pretty well documented that indeed they were doing a lot of very nasty biological weapons program testings at Plum Island off the East Coast there. Okay, well, let's jump into the silver. Simon, what the heck is going on in the precious metals market? Silver it looks like it's as volatile as some of these crazy cryptocurrencies, which is very, very out of the norm for silver to be making these big moves up and down.
Yeah, it's been a pretty extraordinary 24 hours, or over indeed the entire weekend, because of course the Middle East were open on Sunday, because Sunday is a working day for many of those countries. Then, of course, we had Asia being 12 hours at least ahead of the United States. So they all opened up early. Silver, there's been a huge disparity between the COMEX price and the Shanghai Futures Exchange. Went from $8 to $12 differential based upon whether one could insist upon cash settlement or physical delivery. Just goes to show how people really want to have it in their sweaty palms rather than simply getting another stack of fiat dollars in return. But the price did indeed go all the way up to about $85. Then supposedly there was a massive sale and the price was driven down all the way to 74. Then many people took the opportunity to swoop in and get a late year-end bargain. It rallied back up to about 81 and a bit, and then there was more selling pressure, and it was pushed back down to 76 or so. Again, the chart is quite extraordinary to see. And yeah, what a incredible swings just in very, very thin liquidity, with many people, taking an extended vacation in between Christmas and New Year's. But we'll just have to wait to see whether it does get a sustained rally in the new year. Musk is very, very upset about this big spike in silver because it's needed in a lot of the new energy transition systems, not least of which are the solar panels, on which he is so keen. And there's a fair amount in Tesla vehicles as well. Not sure how much of it he's mining on Earth in order to fly to Mars, but undoubtedly that's part of his evil schemes.
And Simon, also I saw a big part of silver, a big part of munitions. These missile systems use a lot of silver in there, and so we literally are just blowing it up, shooting off missiles in there to be used as part of a connectivity to the technology, the electronic systems in a lot of these missile systems, and
And
so
And it turns out that a lot of the refining capacity, much like the rare earth metals, is in China. And there's been some very interesting articles about wolfram and antimony and bismuth as well, and how those are key components for the European and US armaments industries for anything that requires a primer, anything from a 2 long rifle round to a 155 millimeter artillery shell. And it turns out that those materials have less than a 90-day supply currently in the United States. So it just goes to show that China definitely has a stranglehold on the potential manufacture of replacement munitions were the United States to go to war either against Iran or China or the Russian Federation anytime soon.
China's put export controls. Did you mention that on their silver now, right?
Yep.
So it's looking like Trump's old trade war with the tariffs maybe backfiring here just a little
That's
bit.
assuming that the Supreme Court anytime soon doesn't rule them completely unconstitutional and subject to a refund in any event.
That would be the kicker. Maybe they're waiting politically to line up to feel like if it's popular or not to do it. Okay, where are we at here? We covered the silver. Okay, so can Trump claim peace if he's claimed he stopped a war and then they start a war, i.e., or start shooting at each other again, i.e., Thailand and Cambodia, because he's already claimed he caused peace there, but now there's been more dust ups. And so, can he claim peace twice if they stop shooting one day, start the next, and then stop the next? And so he'll have like unlimited peace with looking at it that way.
Well, it's interesting that China has stepped in as the adult in the room, and they've brought in the Cambodians and the Thais into Beijing, essentially read them the riot act, and things seem to have settled down at the second attempt. It is significant, of course, that Thailand has massive trade relations with both of those countries and is supplying both of their militaries as well. So if China were to actually pick a side there, it would be a very, very, very strong position indeed for that particular party. At the same time as we're having rather limited elections in Burma, otherwise known as Myanmar, as well, which also has a border with China. So they are exerting
We lost you for a
previously,
second.
where Trump has previously been claiming credit.
Well, peace on earth due to Trump. Can you hear me, Simon?
I can hear you fine, thank you.
Okay. About Syria, the former Al Qaeda, ISIS, internationally wanted terrorist now. The new head of Syria, the president, who's made all the rounds to the United Nations, to the White House. Trump says that in the meeting today with Bibi. Well, let's just play the clip here about the new president of Syria.
Well, I hope he's going to get along with Syria because the new president of Syria is working very hard to do a good job. He really is. I know he's a tough cookie, and he's, you're not going to get a choir boy to lead Syria. That's the one thing I would say. So I hope they're going to get along because, I dropped the sanctions on Syria because otherwise they wouldn't have had a chance. We want to see Syria survive.
Is Syria and Bibi going to get along there, Simon? What do you think?
Well, interestingly enough, Syria just launched their new banknotes today, and they've knocked a couple of zeros off the exchange rate just to make the math a little bit easier for those who are challenged with doing long division. And we've actually had Mossad-backed demonstrations, publicly backed demonstrations in Iran today because they need to drop about 4 zeros off their exchange rate to the US dollar because their currency on Sunday was trading at 1.42 million Iranian rials to the US dollar. Now, all of those speculators in the Iranian currency will be overjoyed to hear that the currency did strengthen slightly. It went from 1.42 million to 1.38 million on Monday. So people who are good at doing maths will have noted that that was a reduction of 40,000 rials, strengthening of their local currency. But I should point out, for all of those who think that's a result, that in 2015, when the initial Obama nuclear deal with Iran was done, otherwise known as the JCPOA, which Trump pulled out of in 2018, actually triggering the current crisis with the Iranian alleged nuclear program, that the currency exchange rate then between the Iranian currency and the US dollar was 35,000 to the US dollar. 35,000. So that's now the daily range, and it's at 1.4 million rials to the US dollar. So in the space of the last 10 years, we've seen over a 95% reduction in the value of the Iranian currency. That on top of all the weather warfare, which is purportedly be causing the massive droughts that the country has been experiencing up until they had heavy snowfall in the last few days. This is part of the reason why there's a lot of domestic strife in Iran and a relatively high rate of inflation. The annualized inflation, I think, at the moment is running something like 50%, but food inflation is currently running at about 75% annualized. So there are substantial fears for it going over 100% inflation, which would then technically be hyperinflation in the new year. So very, very difficult situation that they're currently facing in the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Looks like U.S. sanctions are finally hitting hard there. What do you make of this? We got the old the star there on the new Syrian currency. That looks kind of
Well,
suspect. Do you think?
is it a star or is it overlapping squares? I think it's overlapping squares there.
It's not
But
the alleged Star of David, or is this Saturn worship? What do you make of this?
yeah, I'm less concerned about that than the symbol of the Syrian wheat. And it should be pointed out that U.S. forces in Syria imported the wheat seed stock into the country, and it turned out to be contaminated with a biological weapon that actually took root in the soil, which is now permanently contaminated a lot of the wheat fields of Syria. So, in addition to stealing their oil, we have actually engaged in biological warfare in Syria by destroying a lot of the actual soil of their wheat fields. As
Well,
you do.
and remember Trump's first term, we're up in arms because allegedly Assad, then president of Syria, attacked his own people with chemical weapons, and now that's been thoroughly debunked. But that was Trump, the peace president, first term said, well, he did an offshore strike allegedly on the chemical weapons warehouse or factory or whatever.
But he also ordered a full withdrawal of U.S. forces from Syria, and the CENTCOM, in cooperation with the then official U.S. ambassador to Syria, did an end run around Trump, told them that they'd been withdrawn. He never checked, and in fact, they all still were in his term.
Should have checked out the Pentagon. They can't pass a financial audit. What else are they lying about?
And they also, it turns out, have now admitted that over half of the weapons that have recently been sent to Israel, they completely failed to keep track of what they were used for. As I was pointing out to people on social media, that clearly was very deliberate, because if you find out they're used for genocide and that gets put into official US government records, it's then pretty hard to claim that you haven't been supporting genocide.
A Pentagon audit concluded that the U.S. military did not properly track 13.4 billion with a B in military aid sent to Aardvark land. So yeah, who cares about $13.4 billion worth of untracked aid there? It's just laughable at this point. Here's the report from Defense News. According to the Inspector General report there out of the Pentagon audit. Okay, quickly, Simon, what do we make of, well, before we get to we're going to go over here on the hour, but quickly, let's get to the Musk. Musk did a teleconference call now here with Netanyahu about making Aardvark land the global leader in artificial intelligence. This is only going to help us out with the AI new industrial revolution, right?
Yeah, it's pretty hard to imagine a possibly worse outcome for AI than being centered in Tel Aviv. But this apparently is what Musk was discussing with Netanyahu today. And I don't know, anybody who's a fan of Musk should definitely be doing a double take at this point. Far, far more severe than Musk's apology tour post October the 7th. And it's interesting that it was confirmed today by the Chinese ambassador to the Russian Federation that Russia and China are going ahead with creating the World Cooperation Organization on Artificial Intelligence. So there are definitely two competing poles between Russia and China and Aardvark land and the United States.
Amazing. Amazing there. So Bibby went to their meeting at Mar-a-Lago all day today. What do we make of this meeting? I don't know how it's being reported that his plane wasn't pulled over under international airspace where he could have been pulled over and arrested on the international
Well,
criminal
he
war.
went over Italian and I believe Greek and French airspace. He deviated from going over Spanish airspace whilst en route to the United States. In theory, all three of those countries should have forced his plane to land and then delivered him to The Hague to face his war crimes charges. He's still got an ongoing trial for corruption in Aardvark land. And it's very interesting that as part of the press conference with Trump today, Trump once again appealed for the president of Israel, Mr. Herzog, to grant Bibi a pardon in advance, which is unheard of in Aardvark jurisprudence for what it is. And so, yeah, there's once again rules for thee, but not for me. And
Trump says he's a wartime president and he has to be forgiven because he's fighting for Western civilization in our Judeo-Christian crusade against the savages, Simon.
well, I was a bit confused because I thought the Ukrainians were doing that, but apparently they're both doing it another.
Oh man. So we're still waiting. I want Bibby to go to New York and call old Ma'am Danny's bluff, who said he would arrest him if he went to New York City. So let's see it all play out. I don't think it's going to happen. I would like to see all of that play out, but we're not going to get that gift, I don't think, as Bibby's safe there in Florida at Mar-a-Lago, meeting up with, here he is, glad handing with old little Marco Rubio, and then glad handing with the Secretary of War. And it's all so happy and funny as they celebrate genocide there. Truly, truly disgusting behavior from the Trump administration. So they say they're working. They tell us they're working on phase 2 of the ceasefire there in Gaza. We haven't even seen phase 1, Simon, because they keep stacking bodies over there every day. There's reports of another dead Palestinian and recovered from the rubble, and they're still leveling the whole place. So I guess
so. We in terms of Palestinian developments, we did have big news today that had been long rumored that the Hamas spokesman Abu Obaida has been now confirmed as having been killed in August of 2025, along with several other high-ranking Hamas members. So the Arab Street is very sad about his official demise because he was very, very popular with the masses. But are we ready to go on to the next portion of the show, Sam? Should I introduce our transition music?
Let's see. Yeah, I think that's about. They're meeting up. The War Cabinet is meeting up with Bibi.
So it should be pointed out that the purpose supported supposedly of Bibi's trip is to ask Trump. It's not clear whether he's asking for US participation or he's asking for a free hand for yet another attack on Iran. And it's interesting that in the run up to our show tonight, Ali Shamkhani, who our hard won listeners will be familiar with, he was a very, very senior figure in the Iranian administration, is now a foreign policy advisor to the Grand Ayatollah. And he's put out a statement in English, Farsi, Arabic, and Hebrew, and interestingly enough, Russian as well, stating not only would Iran respond to any such attack, but their response would be of a magnitude that would shock and befuddle the attackers. And it's interesting that there's quite significant variations between the different various languages that message has been put out. So it's not just a strict translate, cut and paste. But yeah, they're putting out some quite stern warnings not to whack them a second time. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see the outcome.
But Simon,
of-
Iran's going to have a nuclear or a ballistic missile program in 2 weeks, so we have to bomb them again.
Well, they've already got a ballistic missile program. It's a question of whether or not they're going to use it as a first strike or use it as a response strike. It's,
They're announcing like we just figured this out, and they need to be bombed again.
again and again.
Again
Yes.
and again and again. Bomb, 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 Iran.
Yes. John McCain is sitting up in his coffin as opposed to rolling over as we speak. And talking of
It's
great-
horrible. The Iron Dome, though. Okay, so they bomb it. Let's just play it out quickly here. They bomb Iran again to stop them from having a ballistic missile program they've had for years. But if anything to stop these damn evil Iranians, and then Iran fires back, and we saw it. They broke through the Iron Dome, but now they've launched the Iron Beam.
So this is the key point. Do they feel confident to launch the second round of strikes on Iran? In fact, this will be the third round, because they now have the Iron Beam, which is a laser interdiction system, as opposed to missile versus missile, which not only was very, very expensive, but turned out to be relatively ineffective. So this may be the crux of why they now have newfound confidence to take on the mullahs a third time, is because they now have this new anti-missile system called the Iron Beam system. And it's interesting that they've been selling some of their Arrow 3 equipment to the Germans, who are getting ready for trying to shoot down some newly stationed Oreshniks. So yeah, there's still a great deal of moving pieces. So let me introduce the music that we've got for our transition for the second hour of the show. And people should at this point be gathering their beverages, because we are going to have a drinking game on the word global, which occurs approximately 40 times in this lengthy Chinese document that we're going to be going through. But the transition music is from a band from Melbourne, Australia, called the Murlocs, not of the Time Machine fame of Orson Welles, Murloc, should people wish to find it. And this song is called Initiative, because we are going to be talking about the 4 Chinese initiatives, the GDI, GSI, GCI, and GGI, all of which we've covered in more detail than any other alternative media during the course of 2023, 4, and 5. And this is now the big upcoming contest for 2026, as explained in recent articles in the Global Times in the last couple of days. And so I hope people enjoy this. If you can't play it from 50 seconds to 3 minutes and 7 seconds, Sam, you can play the entire thing. But let's try and get this to rock and roll, and invite people to stay on with us for another hour of a deep dive, comparing the 4 pages concerning South and Central America from the American National Security Strategy and the Chinese response, which was published just 5 days later. And nobody, as far as I can tell, even in the run up to Christmas, let alone this intervening period between Christmas and New Year, have 1, noticed this, 2, bothered to read it, and 3, bothered to cover it in detail. And this is very, very important indeed, and is the Chinese challenge to America's self-asserted backyard.
There, I felt weird on the other side. Here is a segue to the deep dive into U.S.-China national security strategies comparison.
Take yourself off mute, Sam.
We're back.
So I hope people enjoyed that. Great video. It's a little bit confusing as to whether or not it's Trump scared of commitment, or it's whether or not it's Xi Jinping showing a little initiative. But in this case, we're not going to be showing a little bit of initiative. We're going to be showing a lot of all of the initiatives. And this is not a concept. This is an implementation strategy. Okay. So this is very, very important indeed. And it is in direct conflict with the major part of the Trump administration's new national security strategy that was published on the 5th of December, albeit that it's just got a spurious date of November, no number, 2025. This Chinese document was published on their foreign ministry website without any big announcement on the 10th of December. Now, I discovered it, as I'm sure many other members of our audience were doing, when I woke up with a bit of an epiphany on Christmas Day, albeit that was 12 days earlier than necessary, as people will recall, the whole purpose of the 12 days of Christmas being the lead up to the Epiphany. And on this occasion, I started reading in Portuguese the Twitter feed of the Consul General of the Chinese Republic in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, in which he referred to this particular document and said, if you want to see the full text, please click below. And lo and behold, the link didn't exist. So I reached out to them, as you do on Christmas Day, to the Consul General of the Chinese Republic in Rio de Janeiro. And lo and behold, they replied in Portuguese. And that document was sufficient to find it in English. And it is a direct challenge in unequivocal terms to the corollary of the Teddy Roosevelt version of the Monroe Doctrine, whereupon the Trump administration says that they will intervene wherever in South and Central America they see fit against whomever, using whatever means they choose to do so. So it should actually be called the Ever Doctrine as opposed to the Monroe Doctrine, because it is wherever against whomever, using whatever means they see fit. And that's why we've taken it upon ourselves on my last broadcast of 2025 to do this super deep dive comparing these two documents. And one could argue whether or not the largest flashpoint in the world potentially is Taiwan, where we've seen this massive military exercise launched today called Justice Mission 2025, with some very bold statements from the China Military Bugle, which is the public affairs outreach organ of the People's Liberation Army, with some follow-up piss takes on the Taiwanese Tourism Authority, where they're talking about visiting some of the best tourist spots in Taipei, and also showing uninterdicted drone footage of the most famous building in Taiwan. So the Chinese have responded very, very strongly to Trump's supply of an additional $11 billion of weapons to the Taiwanese. And this comes just 20 days after their response to his corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. So very, very, very strong riposte going in two directions, and really not quite grasped by the alt media as to what is going on. It's very interesting and easy to focus on ship movements and plane movements, but it's a lot more intellectually challenging to get into the nitty gritty of policy documents. But certainly in terms of the long term strategy, I would suggest that is much more important. So, what we're going to do is start on, I believe it's page 15 of the US National Security Strategy, as published on or about the 5th of December of 2025. And this is where they talk directly about the Western Hemisphere, otherwise known as America's backyard. And then we're going to go through almost all of the Chinese document that, as I will explain as I go through it, is exceptionally, exceptionally important, and doubtless is being considered by all of the South and Central American and Caribbean governments, in contrast to the Trump administration policy statement. So this is, a big portion of the world's population is the two world's greatest superpowers fighting for influence in this area, and we really, really can't afford to ignore these written documents. And so, Sam, if you can pull up that and put it full screen, please, and I'm going to read off the screen for the national security document. It's about 3/4 the way down on page 15 where it says Western Hemisphere. Okay.
Simon, let's remind everybody that this U.S. national security strategy plan put out by the Trump administration is 33 pages long.
And interestingly, the Chinese document is exactly the same length. They're both 33 pages.
33.
Yeah. So you can assign whatever significance you wish to on that.
Okay, here's page 15 of the U.S.
Yeah, just
Simon.
need to scroll down a little bit more, please. We're on page 11 there.
Oh, actual 15, not in the document, because we had.
Yeah.
Here we go.
There we go. So where it says Western Hemisphere, please. There we go. A little bit further down, please. Right there we go. So this is where it says the Western Hemisphere, the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. Now, it should be remembered that the Monroe Doctrine was initially published in 1823. It was subsequently revised several times. Professor Jeffrey Sachs of Columbia University has done a couple of videos where he explains the entire historiography of that particular document. But essentially, the Trump version is a continuation of the Teddy Roosevelt corollary. So, corollary is like an annex or an amendment. Okay. And so, quoting directly from the Trump doctrine, it says, after years of neglect, the United States will reassert and enforce the Monroe Doctrine. But this is not the original Monroe Doctrine. This is the 1905 version, right? To restore American preeminence / hegemony in the Western Hemisphere and to protect our homeland and our access to key geographies throughout the region. We will deny non-hemispheric competitors, read China, the ability to position forces or other threatening capabilities, or to own or control strategically vital assets, see Chinese influence over the Panama Canal, in our hemisphere. This Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine is a common sense and potent restoration of American power and priorities consistent with American security interests. And if you continue down, please, Sam. Our goals for the Western Hemisphere can be summarized as enlist and expand. We will enlist established friends in the hemisphere to control migration, stop drug flows, and strengthen stability and security on land and sea. We will expand by cultivating and strengthening new partners while bolstering our own nation's appeal as the hemisphere's economic and security partner of choice. Yeah, but in reality, they don't intend to give you a choice, as Dr. Jay Shankar, the Indian foreign minister, pointed out at the Munich Security Conference in 2024. America doesn't really give you a choice as to which side you choose. So, under the subheading of enlist, American policy should focus on enlisting regional champions that can help create tolerable stability in the region, even beyond those partners' borders. So, they're basically specifically stating that they want South and Central American proxy states as they've now achieved first in Argentina and most recently in Honduras. These nations would help us stop illegal and destabilizing migration, neutralize cartels, nearshore manufacturing, and develop local private economies, among other things. We will reward and encourage the region's governments, political parties, and movements broadly aligned with our principles and strategy, but we must not overlook governments with different outlooks with whom we nonetheless share interests and want to work with us. The United States must reconsider our military presence in the Western Hemisphere. This means four obvious things. And it should be pointed out that the Chinese have stated that there are four purposes of their military exercises around Taiwan. So this is very much, this is America's backyard, this is China's backyard, as they would assert, part of China, and it has the same four obvious things. But in the American case here, they're saying a readjustment of our global military presence to adjust urgent threats in our hemisphere, especially the missions identified in this strategy, and away from theaters whose relative import to American national security has declined in recent decades or years, part of which they claim being Africa. A more suitable Coast Guard and Navy presence to control sea lanes, to thwart illegal and other unwanted migration, to reduce human and drug trafficking, and to control key transit routes in a crisis. Targeted deployments to secure the border and defeat cartels, including, when necessary, the use of lethal force to replace the failed law enforcement only strategy of the last decades. Notice they're talking about on the border there, so that's Mexico, and establishing or expanding access in strategically important locations. The United States will prioritize commercial diplomacy, which is what Trump is all about, the art of the deal, to strengthen our own economy and industries using tariffs and reciprocal trade agreements until we decide to violate them as powerful tools. The goal is for our partner nations to build up their domestic economies while an economically stronger and more sophisticated Western Hemisphere becomes an increasingly attractive market for American commerce and investment, otherwise known as prepping the battlefield. Strengthening critical supply chains in this hemisphere will reduce dependencies and increase American economic resilience. This is all about the rare earth minerals in places such as Bolivia. The linkages created between America and our partners will benefit both sides while making it harder for non-hemispheric competitors, once again China, to increase their influence in the region. And even as we prioritize commercial diplomacy, we work to strengthen our security partnerships, from weapon sales to intelligence sharing to joint exercises. So that's all under the heading of enlist. Now we come to the second part of the strategy, which is the expand part. As we deepen our partnerships with countries with whom America presently has strong relations, we must look to expand our network, which is literally like a network of spies, in the region. We want other nations to see us as their partner of first choice, and we will, through various means, discourage their collaboration with others. Notice there, that's an important point. We will, through various means, discourage their collaboration with others. So that's basically saying if you ally in any respect with China, you will suffer a penalty, even if it's just in trade or in culture, not even in military aspects. The Western Hemisphere is home to many strategic resources that America should partner with regional allies to develop. This is the second point that Trump has made about Venezuela, where he's clearly stated it's not about narcotics, but it's about seizing the oil and the land that America wants, remembering that the phrase America or we want is in the national security strategy approximately 45 times. Some might call that somewhat narcissistic. The aim is to make neighboring countries, as well as our own, more prosperous. The National Security Council will immediately begin a robust interagency process to task agencies supported by our intelligence community's analytical arm, i.e. the CIA, to identify strategic points and resources in the Western Hemisphere with a view to their protection, not for their countries, but for America's interests, and joint development with regional partners. Non-hemispheric competitors, the phrase again meaning China, have made major inroads into our hemisphere, both to disadvantage us economically in the present and in ways that may harm us strategically in the future. Allowing these incursions without serious pushback is another great American strategic mistake of recent decades. The United States must be preeminent in the Western Hemisphere as a condition of our security and prosperity, a condition that allows us to assert ourselves constantly where and when we need to in the region. Just go back to highlight that sentence again, please, Sam. The United States must be preeminent, i.e., hegemonic, in the Western Hemisphere as a condition of our security and prosperity, a condition that allows us to assert ourselves confidently where and when we need to in the region. So basically, we can intervene wherever we want, whenever we want. The terms of our alliances and the terms upon which we provide any kind of aid must be contingent upon winding down adversarial outside influence. So, unlike expressed at the Munich Security Conference, it is most definitively make a choice with us or against us. From control of military installations, ports such as the Panama Canal port at both ends, and key infrastructure to the purchase of strategic assets broadly defined. So they're not even going to allow foreign governments to purchase what America, not the South American countries, decide are strategic assets. And the definition there is to be broadly defined. Some foreign influence will be hard to reverse given the political alignments between certain Latin American governments and certain foreign actors, see China. However, many governments are not ideologically aligned with foreign powers, but are instead attracted to doing business with them for other reasons, including low costs and fewer regulatory hurdles. The United States has achieved success in rolling back outside influence in the Western Hemisphere by demonstrating with specificity how many hidden costs in espionage, cybersecurity, debt traps, which specifically refers to the Belt and Road Initiative, and other ways are embedded in allegedly low-cost foreign assistance. We should accelerate these efforts, including by utilizing US leverage, i.e., blackmail, in finance and technology to induce countries to reject such assistance from other countries. In the Western Hemisphere and everywhere in the world, the United States should make clear that American goods, services, and technologies are a far better buy in the long run because they are higher quality and do not come with the same kind of strings as other countries' assistance. That is total projection and the reverse of the absolute truth, because China is very, very clear that its assistance comes with no strings, particularly not cultural ones, as occurred during the Biden administration when they were trying to push homosexuality and abortion throughout Asia and Middle East and Africa. Again, to make ourselves, America, the partner of first choice, the choice all countries should face is whether they want to live in an American-led world of sovereign countries. So they are literally claiming global supremacy there, American-led world and free economies, or in a parallel one, which is the Chinese alternative, in which they are influenced by countries on the other side of the world. Unambiguous reference to China there, okay? Every US official working in or on the region must be up to speed on the full picture of detrimental outside influence while simultaneously applying pressure and offering incentives to partner countries to protect our hemisphere. Notice there, it's not just the carrot, but there's the stick as well, offering incentives and simultaneously applying pressure, the carrot and the stick. Successfully protecting our hemisphere also requires closer collaboration between the US government and the American private sector. All our embassies must be aware of major business opportunities in their country, especially major government contracts. Every US government official that interacts with these countries should also understand that part of their job is to help American companies compete and succeed. The US government will identify strategic acquisition and investment opportunities for American companies in the region and present these opportunities for every US government financing program, including but not limited to those within the Departments of State, War, and Energy, the Small Business Administration, the International Development Finance Corporation, the Export Import Bank, and the Millennium Challenge Corporation. You should pay attention to that list there because the Chinese document gives an alternative list of organizations to cooperate with. We should also partner with regional governments and businesses to build scalable and resilient energy infrastructure, invest in critical mineral access, that's the rare earth minerals alternative source, and harden existing and future cyber communications networks that take full advantage of American encryption and security potential. The aforementioned US government entities should be used to finance some of the cost of purchasing US goods abroad. The United States must also resist and reverse measures such as targeted taxation, unfair regulation, and expropriation that disadvantage US businesses. That's a direct reference there to the nationalization policies, not only of Cuba, but also of the Venezuelan government in the last 20 years. The terms of our agreements, especially with those countries that depend on us most, and therefore over which we have the most leverage, must be sole source contracts for our companies. So literally they're saying there, they must be American monopolies supplying these Latin and South American governments. At the same time, we should make every effort to push out foreign companies that build infrastructure in the region. And that obviously is a direct reference not only Chinese railways and ports, but also the Huawei satellite and digital mobile phone networks that have been set up in the region. So that's the baseline for us. That's what the United States is stating as its hegemonic goals for the Western Hemisphere. Next, we're going to
I
get
mean,
into
quickly on
the.
all these documents, why don't they just directly say, why doesn't US directly say China? Why doesn't China directly say US? They always him and haw, and we if you read between the lines, you know who they're talking about. But why don't they just explicitly state who they're talking about?
Well, that's a very valid observation, Sam, and it's interesting that the Chinese, they're always saying, "Oh, we're not operating against any third party," but as we'll see in the Chinese document, they constantly refer to the other country or the hegemon, and so they're literally, China is using code words for the United States, and the United States is using code words for China. That's because should anybody other than our audience stumble across these documents, it may not be immediately clear to them just how directly competitive and adversarial this relationship is. But they maintain this pretense, like the Russian Federation has in relation to European countries, of constantly referring to them as our partner, whilst in reality they're either the enemy or they're the competitor.
All right, we got the
So, so this Chinese document, released without fanfare, but just 5 days after that document that we just went through, the part that specifically relates to Central, South, and the Caribbean, basically everything south of the US border, as they specifically stated within those 4 or so pages. Now, it is interesting that both documents are 33 pages long. Some may see some significance in that number. You can embark on whatever conspiracy theory you may wish to pursue in that regard. But here, it should be noted that the Chinese document is much more of a commercial and foreign policy nature rather than security per se. So one shouldn't put too much stead in one being 4 pages and the other one being 33 pages, because this does incorporate much more global aspects of Chinese foreign policy. Though, as the title specifically states, it is China's policy paper on Latin America and the Caribbean. Now, the important word there is policy, okay? It's not a concept paper. It's not an idea that they're asking for feedback on, like a thesis and an antithesis creating a synthesis. Okay, this is policy that, as they expressly state, they are in the process of implementing. Now, what's particularly important about this document, and as we've referred to all of these initiatives, hence the song in the run up to this segment from the Murloc, the song entitled Taking the Initiative, okay, which, believe me, did take quite a bit of searching to find a relevant song to this particular broadcast that we'll be making a special segment of so that people can review it on a standalone basis. This specifically refers to the Belt and Road Initiative, the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, the Global Civilization Initiative, and the Global Governance Initiative, all of which we alone have covered in excruciating detail on previous specials. Okay, but what you're seeing here is direct conflict and competition between Chinese influence south of the US Mexico border and American claimed hegemony in that region. This is not some kind of academic, theory. This is real direct actions on the ground. Okay, this is very, very important for both Venezuela and Cuba and Honduras and Nicaragua and Argentina, and what we're seeing as we roll into New Year 2026. So if you could scroll down to where this paper starts, please, Sam, and people will get a feel for this just from the opening sentence in the preface. Okay, now this is a direct quote, as we've seen many times before in these policy documents relating to the new era, of the conversation that was held between Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin outside the Russian presidential palace whilst he was waiting in the snow for his car a couple of years ago, when they said changes are occurring in the world unseen in the last 100 years. And Putin replied, yes, and we're making them happen. Okay, I'm paraphrasing that. So, in the opening paragraph of this Chinese policy paper, it says, quote, at present, and by the way, the drinking word, if people are not yet abstaining, is going to be the word global. We did consider choosing the acronym LAC, but that occurred 143 times, which would probably have killed almost all of our audience. So if you can drink sparingly, this is a sip per occurrence of the word global, and of course you are welcome to imbibe non-alcoholic beverages should you see fit. So to start once again, it says, at present, changes unseen in a century are accelerating in the world, not occurring. The rate at which they are occurring is increasing. Changes unseen in a century are accelerating in the world, and a significant shift is taking place in the international balance of power. The global south stands out with a strong momentum and plays an increasingly important role in human progress. In the meantime, the world is beset by lackluster economic growth, except in India and China, frequent regional conflicts and disturbances, and here's the first reference to the United States, unilateral bullying undermining international peace and security. Human society is facing unprecedented challenges. So, a really bold first paragraph for this important policy document. China has realized its first centenary goal, that's the centenary of the Chinese Communist Party, of building a moderately prosperous society in all respects, and is striving to build a great country and advance national rejuvenation on all fronts through Chinese modernization. China remains firm in pursuing an independent foreign policy of peace and is dedicated to the common values of humanity. And here is the crux. China, it is implementing the Global Development Initiative, the GDI, the Global Security Initiative, the GSI, the Global Civilization Initiative, the GCI, and the Global Governance Initiative. Now, as I explained, this is not a concept paper asking for feedback. It says China is implementing these initiatives and deepening high quality Belt and Road cooperation. It advocates an equal and orderly multipolar world and a universally beneficial and inclusive economic globalization, and promotes the building of a community with a shared future for humanity. We've done whole shows talking about the shared future for humanity. As a developing country and a member of the global south, China has always stood in solidarity through thick and thin with the global south, including Latin America and the Caribbean, hereafter known as the LAC. In recent years, the Chinese President Xi Jinping has set forth a series of major initiatives and measures on strengthening the China-LAC relationship and cooperation across the board, adding new dimensions to the relationship. And this is precisely where the conflict is now arising with the United States administration. The Chinese government hereby releases China's third policy paper on the LAC to draw experience, plan the future, and elaborate China's policy on the Latin American countries, and bring the relations and cooperation between the two sides in various fields to a new level. So they put out policy papers, I think, in 2008, and it was either 2014 or 16. I think they mentioned those. So this is a level 3, and this is pushing it to a new level. So it says Latin America and the Caribbean, a land full of vibrancy and hope. LAC is an important part of the global south and a major force for world peace and stability, and global development and prosperity. In recent years, LAC countries have actively explored development paths suited to their national conditions, sought strength through unity, and participated in global governance, with its global influence continuously on the rise. This region as a whole boasts a glorious tradition of independence and unity for strength, and enjoys bright prospects. And indeed, it's that independence which was the starting point for the original Monroe Doctrine, which was America saying to Europe, you keep out of Latin American affairs and leave that to the United States, and the United States will keep out of European affairs. It was designed to be a reciprocal foreign policy. And it says that it is an essential force in the process toward a multipolar world and economic globalization. That obviously is the reason for existence of BRICS, which Trump is dead set against. So he doesn't want to see a multipolar world. So in here we have part 2, the flourishing relations between China and the Latin America and the Caribbean. Though far apart, the peoples of China and Latin America have a long history of friendship. In the early days, since the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949, the China-LAC relations were primarily characterized by people-to-people exchanges. And after the 1960s, with the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and some LAC countries, exchanges and cooperation between the two sides have become increasingly close, with both supporting each other in safeguarding national sovereignty, independence, and dignity. With the efforts of successive generations, the China-LAC friendship has taken deep root in the heart of their peoples. In 2008, the Chinese government issued its first policy paper proposing to establish a comprehensive and cooperative partnership featuring equality, mutual benefit, and common development with LAC countries. In 2014, the leaders of China and LAC countries held a meeting in Brasilia and jointly announced the establishment of the Comprehensive and Cooperative, and if you just scroll down, please, Sam, Partnership of Equality, Mutual Benefit, and Common Development. In 2016, the Chinese government issued its second policy paper on LAC, stating China's commitment to building a new relationship with LAC with 5 salient features, and its goal to bring the comprehensive and cooperative partnership to a new height. In recent years, under the strategic guidance of head of state diplomacy, China-LAC relations have entered a new stage of equality, mutual benefit, innovation, openness, and benefits for the people, setting a shining example of South-to-South cooperation. China and LAC countries are advancing hand in hand as a community with a shared future. The community is founded upon equality, powered by mutual benefit and win-win, invigorated by openness and inclusiveness, and dedicated to the people's well-being. It exhibits enduring vitality and holds immense promise. Look at the difference in tone of this document in comparison to the Chinese strategic security statement. Part 3, joining hands to promote the 5 programs for building a China-LAC community with a shared future. China stands ready to join hands with Latin America and the Caribbean to promote the 5 programs on solidarity, development, civilization, peace, and people-to-people connectivity. Nothing about hegemony, strategic assets, American monopolies, and excluding any other countries, and to advance shared development and revitalization and write a new chapter in building an LAC China community with a shared future. Now, we're going to go through each one of these because each one of these programs directly relates to the Chinese initiatives, the BRI, GDI, GSI, GCI, and GGI. And so these show the direct on the ground implementation of these policies in real life. Okay, it's really, really important, this document. And you can then extrapolate this to ASEAN and to the Middle East and to the African Union. Okay, so number one is the Solidarity Program. High-level exchanges. China wishes to give full play to the guiding role of head of state diplomacy, maintain exchange of visits and meetings of multilateral international events between leaders of China and LAC countries, enhance exchanges and mutual learning of experience of state governance, modernization, and strengthen communication on bilateral relations and major issues of common interests. Mutual support of each other's core interests and major concerns. And here you can see the relation to what is occurring in and around Taiwan today with the new exercise, Justice Mission 2025, that we discussed in the first hour of the program. The One China principle is the important political function and premise for China to develop diplomatic relations with other countries. The important, the number one political foundation and premise. The Chinese government appreciates that the vast majority of LAC countries, Honduras having stated a change in this policy as a result of the US interfered and supported election of its new president. These other LAC countries abide with the One China principle and recognize that there is but one China in the world. Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory, and the government of the People's Republic of China is the sole legal government representing the whole of China. We oppose Taiwan independence in any form and support the Chinese government in safeguarding national sovereignty and territorial integrity and realizing national reunification. China is ready to establish and develop state-to-state relations with LAC countries on the basis of the One China principle. China stands ready to work with LAC countries having diplomatic relations with China to enhance strategic mutual trust, continue to render mutual understanding and support on issues concerning national sovereignty, security, territorial integrity, the direct reference there to Venezuela, and other core interests and major concerns, support each other in the following development paths suited to national conditions, and oppose hegemonism and power politics. Direct reference there to the United States. Part 3, intergovernmental dialogue and consultation mechanisms. Efforts will be made to fully leverage the role of mechanisms such as high-level coordination and cooperation committees, high-level mixed committees, government, intergovernmental standing committees, strategic dialogue, political consultations, and mixed committees on the economy, trade, high-level groups, free trade committees, and mixed committees on technology, and further improve the relevant dialogue and consultation mechanisms to enhance intergovernmental dialogue and cooperation. Exchanges between legislatures on the basis of respecting each other, deepening understanding, and promoting cooperation. The National People's Congress of China wishes to strengthen multi-level, multi-channel, friendly exchanges with national parliaments and regional and sub-regional parliamentary organizations in Latin America and the Caribbean by fully leveraging the high-level exchanges and exchanges at other levels between these special committees, friendship groups, and offices. Okay, that means you get the exchanges between political parties based on the principles of independence, full equality, mutual respect, and non-interference in each other's internal affairs. So, critical distinction between this document and what Trump is proposing. Based on the principles of independence, full equality, mutual respect, and non-interference in each other's internal affairs, the Communist Party of China wishes to strengthen exchanges and cooperation with the political parties and organizations of LAC countries and invite party cadres of the member states of these countries to visit China to further enhance mutual understanding and trust. Then here we have the first implementation of the initiatives. Point 6. Implementing the Global Governance Initiative. I cannot overemphasize how important this document is in terms of actually implementing these initiatives as opposed to discussing them in abstract terms. China is ready to work with Latin America and the Caribbean to adhere to the vision on global governance featuring extensive consultation and joint contribution for shared benefit, and fully implement the GGI firmly uphold the UN-centered international system and deepen exchanges and cooperation in the United Nations and other international organizations and on other international occasions so as to enhance the representation and voice of the global South, advance the building of a more just and equitable global governance system, and jointly build a community with a shared future for humanity. China supports LAC countries in playing a bigger role in international affairs. Then it goes promoting reforms of the global economic governance system. China will work with LAC countries to strengthen coordination and cooperation in international economic and financial organizations such as the G20, APEC, BRICS, the IMF, World Bank, the BIS, and the Financial Stability Board, and the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, enhance cooperation within the framework of the World Trade Organization-centered multilateral trade system, actively implement the outcomes of previous WTO ministerial conferences, and promote necessary reforms of the WTO so as to better protect the development rights, interests, and space of developing members. Efforts will be made to promote economic integration in the Asia-Pacific region, and China calls on the international community to further promote global economic governance reform, improve and optimize global financial and economic rules, and further advance the IMF quota and governance reforms, which is to decrease American power in the IMF and World Bank, with a view to increasing the representation of emerging markets and developing countries. China will firmly defend international fairness and justice, uphold the multilateral trade system, and oppose unilateral bullying practices. That is the Trump tariff techniques. Safeguard the stability of global industrial and supply chains and reject attempts of decoupling, which is what America has been proposing, and reinventing the wheel so as to protect the open and cooperative international environment and steer economic globalization towards the right direction. Okay, so if we just scroll down there, please keep going. We can skip over that. 1 second. Go back a bit, please. So here, there's another important concept here where they're talking about trilateral cooperation. Okay, so this is important because China here is not only saying we've got to have sovereign country to country relationships, they're talking about three-way relationships. Okay, the China LAC relationship does not target or exclude any third party, nor is it subjugated to the hegemon by any third party. It meets the fundamental interests of the two sides and the trend of our time in the new era, featuring world peace, development, cooperation, and win-win. Based upon the principle of mutual respect and leveraging complementary strengths, China is ready to carry out trilateral development cooperation in LAC countries with relevant countries outside the region. This is literally BRICS and SCO, and international organizations under the premise that such cooperation is proposed, agreed upon, and dominated by countries in the region. China encourages its enterprises to carry out trilateral cooperation in economic, social, and cultural fields in LAC countries with relevant parties on the basis of commercial principles. Then we go to the next of the Chinese initiative, the development program, implementing the Global Development Initiative. So you can see literally why I've been talking for hours and hours over the last 2.5 years about these initiatives. Okay, China is ready to cooperate with LAC countries within the framework of the Global Development Initiative, continue to share development opportunities of Chinese modernization, accelerate the implementation of the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and advance common development. If you scroll down, please. We then get to the High Quality and Road Corporation, which is the BRI. China welcomes more LAC countries to join the high-quality Belt and Road Cooperation, following the principle of extensive consultation and joint contribution for shared benefit, as well as the philosophy of open, green, and clean cooperation. China will work with partner countries in the region to actively enhance alignment of development strategies, promote cooperation in various fields, jointly ensure the safe and smooth advancement of cooperation projects, and strive to make Belt and Road Corporation high standard, people centered, and sustainable so as to achieve modernization of peaceful development, mutually beneficial cooperation, and common prosperity for all countries, and contribute to the building of a community with a shared future for humanity. Then they get to trade and investment. And we can scroll down over this. They basically list all of the different forums, such as, if you stop there, please, because it's in direct contrast to things like the Millennium Challenge Corporation that the Trump policy was stating. It says China follows the principles featuring business-led, market-based operation, pursuit of the greater good and shared interest, and win-win cooperation. China supports domestic enterprises in doing business and making investment in LAC countries to boost local employment, promotes the alignment of China's high-quality production capacity and advanced equipment with LAC's countries' demand, and helps those countries to in need to enhance self-reliance and capabilities for sustainable development. They then talk about financial cooperation. This is direct response to Trump's reference to a debt trap. And here they talk about using local currencies. So this is breaking away from the US dollar dominance. So this is very, very important there, what they're talking about in terms of financial cooperation. If you scroll down, Sam, I'm just going to jump over some of these rather if you just go back there, where they're talking about energy cooperation, please. There we go. They're then talking about energy and resource cooperation. Based upon the principles of win-win cooperation and sustainable development, China stands ready to expand and deepen China LAC cooperation on energy development, which is the whole key point of what's going on in Venezuela, which is the oil. Okay. And utilization across the whole industrial chain, increase cooperation in oil, gas, and traditional energy sectors, strengthen cooperation in clean energy such as hydropower, solar power, wind power, hydrogen energy, and deepen cooperation on peaceful uses of nuclear energy, and enhance green development and utilization of mineral resources at various stages. China is ready to work with LAC countries to actively explore establishing mechanisms of long-term supply and local currency pricing and settlement of energy and resource products. So this is all of the rare earth minerals and all of the energy things that Trump's strategy is talking about, but in this case, in local currency pricing, not denominated in US dollars. This is critically important. Okay, so as to reduce the impact of external economic and financial risks. What they're talking about there is not only US tariffs, but US sanctions where the US dollar accounts get frozen in New York. Then they then talk about infrastructure cooperation. China will work to strengthen cooperation on technology, consulting, construction, equipment manufacturing, and operation management in traditional fields of transportation, trade logistics, storage facilities, information and telecommunication technologies, energy and electricity, water conservation projects, housing and urban construction, as well as in emerging fields such as renewable energy, smart transportation, digital infrastructure, and smart cities. Note there, they're talking about smart cities and Agenda 2030. Okay. China encourages and supports competent domestic enterprises and financial institutions in actively participating in the planning and construction of infrastructure in Latin American and Caribbean countries so as to enhance regional infrastructure connectivity and consistently empower regional economic growth and sustainable development. So there they're talking not only about the Panama Canal, but also this connection from the new port in Peru, which is a Chung Hao, diagonally across South America. So next they get on to manufacturing cooperation. China will enhance synergy in industrial development strategies, increase exchanges in industrial policy, deepen cooperation of raw materials, consumer goods, equipment and manufacturers, green and low carbon industries, industry and supply chains, industrial parts, and promote smart digital and green development of industries in China and LAC countries. China will walk towards a closer China-LAC partnership, industrial and supply chains, and promote the negotiation and signing of cooperation documents. The China-LAC high-level dialogue on industrial cooperation will continue to be held. China will promote policy exchanges on development of small and medium-sized enterprises and provide guidelines for their growth. Okay, if we scroll down. Now it's talking about agricultural cooperation, and it should be pointed out that this year China's announced that despite having a drought early in the year, they've had their largest wheat crop ever in 2025. So they're using AI not only in industry, but also in agricultural cooperation along with satellite link technology. And they're proposing to roll this out to many other um, global south countries. There's a huge benefit that is completely distinct from the Trump policy. China will improve agricultural cooperation mechanisms, encourage enterprise on both sides to actively engage in agricultural trade, plus push for further exchanges and cooperation in agricultural science and technology, personnel training, and other fields, deepen cooperation in livestock and poultry breeding, forestry, fishery, and aquaculture. China will work to enhance exchanges on public policies and market information on food security, and encourage relevant institutions in the countries to carry out targeted exchanges and cooperation in such areas as nutrition, quality of grains, and technologies to reduce post-harvest losses, not such as using glyphosate sprayed onto wheat and other grains, as explained by Secretary Kennedy recently, to desiccate them and reduce post-harvest losses. But because they're then not rained on, the glyphosate doesn't get washed off, so it all goes into the human food chain. So China's proposing solutions other than that, which we would welcome even in the United States. With a view to jointly promoting food security, China will continue to set up and improve agricultural technology demonstration programs to promote the development and demonstration of modern agricultural technology and enhance agricultural technology innovation, agricultural production and processing capacity, and international competitiveness of both sides. China supports scientific research cooperation in areas such as biobreeding and the building of Sustainable Food Information Center. China welcomes the agricultural enterprises from LAC countries to participate in the China International Agricultural Trade Fair, the Grain Trade Conference, and other fairs. Okay, if we scroll down, they're talking there about science and technology, joint laboratories, research and development centers, and high-tech parks, university cooperation, and other mutual research institutes. Okay, if we scroll down again. Keep going 1 second. Aerospace Corporation. And interesting in terms of aerospace corporation, China has announced major agreements via their Chinese ambassador to Russia today, incorporating not only on airframes but also engine technology to reduce their dependence upon Boeing and Airbus. That's a huge other statement that's gone largely unnoticed in Western media today. China will actively explore cooperation with LAC countries in such fields as communication, remote sensing satellites, satellite data application, aerospace infrastructure, and aerospace education and training, and work with the LAC side to jointly promote the application of space technology in disaster prevention, mitigation, agricultural and forestry monitoring, climate change, and other fields, and make good use of space technology to boost LAC countries' scientific, technological, and industrial development, contributing to a sustained advancement in the fields of science and technology. China welcomes LAC countries, and this here is super important, to use the Beidou navigation satellite system. So this is Chinese GPS as opposed to American or European GPS. Okay, it's ready to explore the joint construction of a China LAC Beidou Application Cooperation and Development Center to deepen cooperation. China welcomes the active participation in China's manned space program and lunar and deep space exploration missions, as well as cooperation with LAC countries on space science and application the International Lunar Research Station, which is not the International Space Station. This is literally talking about creating with Russia a moon base. And bear in mind, this is what Musk also wants to create in order to be able to launch rocket ships to Mars. Okay, the China, Latin American, and Caribbean States Space Cooperation Forum will continue to be convened. They're also talking about maritime cooperation, as opposed to Trump just blowing up ships in the Caribbean. Okay, if we scroll down further, there, please, Sam. So this is interesting here. They talk about China will cooperate with LAC countries to build logistical supply bases, plural, for China's Antarctic, i.e. South Pole, expedition and invite researchers from LAC countries to board Chinese research vessels for joint polar scientific exploration. Apparently, they want to go and visit the Nazis hiding at the South Pole. Then I was talking about customs inspections and quarantines. We can scroll down through all that. That is actually very important for trade. More trade and investment promotion agencies. We can scroll down. Environmental protection, climate change, and disaster reduction. That's all very much using the United Nations mechanisms for the Forum on Climate Change, and also the UN disaster reduction mechanisms, both of which obviously were announced in 2015 and form part of Agenda 2030. If we scroll down again, please. Here we go, development assistance. So they're talking about just giving the money for poverty reduction, climate change, and humanitarian assistance. Tax cooperation is basically avoiding tax shelters. Go down, and then supervision. Okay, so the next one we get to then is section 3, the civilization program. This is implementing the Global Civilization Initiative, the GCI. China will work with the LAC countries to implement the Global Civilization Initiative, uphold the vision of equality, mutual learning, dialogue, and inclusiveness between civilizations, and champion humanity's common values on peace, development, fairness, justice, democracy, and freedom. We will work with LAC countries to strengthen people-to-people exchanges and cooperation, consolidate social foundations of friendship, and promote world peace and development by implementing resolutions of the UN General Assembly and promoting the global civilizations dialogue on mutual platforms such as the UN. Okay, so we can scroll down there. Keep on scroll down. It's all cultural activities, Alliance for Cultural Heritage, education and human resources changes, language education is extremely important. They're talking about the joint development of the Confucius Institutes, which in the United States and in Europe have been seen as mechanisms for the spread of Chinese influence, and new centers for Chinese language and professional skills. Talking about Chinese language teacher scholarships and Chinese bridge summer and winter camps in China, Chinese textbooks, and Chinese teaching materials for LAC countries. Okay. Go down. Sports exchanges, media cooperation, which is breaking away from the Western mainstream media. It's a huge push for that. It's going very much underreported, with cross-training of journalists in the various countries. If we scroll down a bit more, please, Sam. Talking about Chinese movies, media, academic and think tank exchanges. And then next we get to the peace program. And there they're talking about implementing the Global Security Initiative. China stands ready to work with LAC countries to uphold the vision of common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security, balance, develop, and security imperatives, and together implement together the Global Security Initiative, carry out exchanges and cooperation in the fields of peace and security, and jointly promote regional and global peace and stability. China supports the proclamation of Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace and the declaration of member states of the Agency for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons in Latin America and the Caribbean. It advocates the peaceful settlement of international disputes and hotspot issues and opposes willful threat or use of force. Is a direct challenge to the United States there. China stands ready to work together with LAC countries to uphold the authority of international law, such as the Biological Weapons Convention and the Chemical Weapons Convention, and strengthen coordination and cooperation. On military exchanges and cooperation, China will actively carry out military exchanges in cooperation with LAC countries, expand friendly exchanges between defense and military leading officials of the two sides, strengthen policy dialogue, and set up working meeting mechanisms. The two sides will conduct mutual visits between delegations and vessels, deepen professional exchanges in such fields as military training, professional training, and UN peacekeeping operations, expand practical cooperation in non-traditional security fields such as humanitarian relief and counterterrorism, and enhance cooperation in military trade and military technology. China will continue to host the Defense Forum of the China LAC based on voluntary participation. Okay, then we've got law enforcement and judicial cooperation. If we just then and notice there they're talking about just one second, just pause there a second, please. They're talking about the two sides will deepen counter narcotics cooperation and jointly combat drug smuggling. So that's a distinct difference between bombing the heck out of alleged drug smuggling ships and then bombing the survivors again, as has recently been done. If we go down again, please, there. Keep going, keep going. Then they're talking about cybersecurity based upon the Global Cybersecurity Initiative and the principles of peace, sovereignty, shared governance, inclusiveness. The Chinese government stands ready to work with LAC countries to build an open, secure, cooperative, and orderly cyberspace of peace, not the CIA Vault 7 or the NSA Vault 7, and put in place a multilateral, democratic, and transparent internet governance system. Efforts will be made to formulate an international code of conduct for cyberspace under the framework of the UN that is generally acceptable among all parties to bring the United Nations Convention Against Cybercrime into force at an early date and to actively build a community with a shared future in cyberspace. China opposes cyber hegemony and the use of cyberspace to interfere in other countries' internal affairs or undermine their political, economic, or social stability through orange revolutions. China will continue to host the China LAC Internet Development and Cooperation Forum. And then talk about non-proliferation. And this is where we get to the final part, which is people-to-people connectivity programs, the social governance and social development. China stands ready to conduct exchanges and cooperation with LAC countries on strengthening and innovating social governance and share and learn from each other's government experience, jointly promote the modernization of national governance systems and governance capacity, and continuously make social governance more law-based, smarter, more specialized, and enhance its public participation in a bid to uphold the stability and order of their societies, enduring peace and stability of their countries. Efforts will be made to further promote exchanges and cooperation between the two sides in social development areas, social welfare and social assistance, strengthen policy sharing, and promote and realise practical cooperation in providing services and assistance to special groups such as the elderly, people with disabilities, and children, as well as disadvantaged groups in rural and urban areas. And they talk about poverty reduction, which obviously China's been enormously successful in the last 40 years. Then it talks about cooperation, health cooperation, and China's massively increased its life expectancy. Then they're talking about consular cooperation. We can keep on scrolling down there. Then they're talking about tourism, and then they're talking about people-to-people exchanges. So if we scroll through that, please, Sam. Okay, hang on a second. Keep on going, please. 21. Keep going. Is that the end of the document there? We get page 21?
That's all I got, Simon.
Okay, well, there we can see how the document is massively different from the Trump version. Massively, massively different. And I should reiterate that that was published only 5 days after the Trump national security strategy. That's not a coincidence in timing, as Sam was saying. There are no coincidences. So thank you ever so much to everyone who endured for that. Thank you, Sam, also for being patient. We've gone through an enormous amount of important policy there, and we managed somehow to do it in like an hour and 10 minutes, which was absolutely astonishing. So that is setting the scene for future contests over South of America in opposition to Trump's corollary of the Monroe Doctrine in the whole of Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. I should take this opportunity, please, to wish everyone a very, very happy new year. Sam will be with you again tomorrow. This is my final broadcast of 2025. And to round us off, we've got Rachel's Platten closeout song called Fighting Strong. It's the version with the lyrics. Please pay attention. Was carefully selected as usual. I hope everyone is able to continue expressing their opinions, both in our chat forum and in any other hate mail they wish to send to Sam, not me, during the course of 2026. And certainly don't hesitate to vote only once in your respective elections, and also communicate in a professional and respectful way with some of your dastardly politicians in the hope that we may be able to influence public policy before World War III breaks out. But with that, Sam's going to do the show wrap up. Please do like, subscribe, follow, rant with your friends in your final 2 working days of 2025 about what you've learned on this show, because nobody else will be talking about it, because no other alternative media have brought you this information, let alone going through it paragraph by paragraph. But I sincerely thank everyone for all of their support during 2025, and remember that we'll still be doing our t-shirt fundraising during the month of January in 2026, where there are lots of new and exciting and thought-provoking designs for you to acquire. And I should give out a special vote of thanks to both Mercurius and also Simon Jones, who have been particularly supportive of me during the past calendar year, and I sincerely hope that they're able to stay engaged for the forthcoming 12 months. And thank you also very, very much to Sam for his patience, and also for his editing of my bizarre song selections.
All right, Simon, thank you very much for all of that, bringing us up to speed about these very important geopolitical developments. We need to take a hard look at China. Look over there at Democrats. Look over there at Republicans. Hey, China, yeah, we got issues, man, and it's all coming to a head here now. in the new year. We look forward to seeing Simon again in the new year on next Monday, the 5th. So tune in then at this special time for Simon, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern time next Monday. And we'll bring you some more deep dives into geopolitics and go over the news. Hopefully they haven't blown up the world between now and then as we go into the new year. As always, everybody do your own research. Peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Monday evening. We'll be back here for the last show of the year at Weaponized News tomorrow. Tune in. We'll do some year-end reviews and take a look. And I may or may not, if they have the show, be on the Boiler Room tomorrow night with Ruckus and his crew as well. And with that, we're going to sign off on this broadcast. Here is Rachel Platten Fight song, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for more Weaponized News.
Like a small boat on the ocean, sending big waves into motion. Like how a single word can make a heart open. I might only have one match, but I can make an explosion. And all those things I didn't say were wrecking balls inside my brain. I will scream on loud tonight. Can you hear my voice this time? This is my fight song. Take back my life song. Prove I'm all right song. My power's turned on. Starting right now. I'll be strong. I'll play my fight song. And I don't really care if nobody else believes, 'cause I've still got a lot of fire left in me. Losing friends and I'm chasing sleep. Everybody's worried about me. In too deep. Say I'm in too deep. And it's been 2 years, I miss my home. But there's a fire burning in my bones. Still believe. Yeah, I still believe. And all of those things I didn't say were wrecking balls inside my brain. I will scream I'm loud tonight. Can you hear my voice this time? This is my fight song. Take back my life song. Prove I'm all right song. My power's turned on. Starting right now. I'll be strong. I'll play my fight song. And I don't really care if nobody else believes, 'cause I've still got a lot of fight left in me. A lot of fight left in me. Like a small boat on the ocean, sending big waves into motion. Like how a single word can make a heart open. I might only have one match, but I can make an explosion. This is my fight song. Take back my life song. Prove I'm all right song. My power's turned on. Starting right now. I'll be strong. I'll play my fight song. And I don't really care if nobody else believes, 'cause I've still got a lot of fight left in me. No, I've still got a lot of